Hey guys, welcome back to the Probate House Guy podcast. I'm sorry for the lull that we had in episodes. Had kind of a lot of stuff going on in life. My daughter was born, and we're still haven't. I would love right now to sleep all the way through the night, a full 7-8 hours straight uninterrupted. That would be the most wonderful thing I could ever ask for right now. My daughter is great. She's 5 months old now as of next week. She's doing awesome, super fun. But anyways, it's thrown our schedule for a loop. I got out of the habit of doing episodes. I'm trying to get back on the horse now. It's 2025. I hope you guys are ready for a great 2025. But today I'm going to do a little bit of a solo episode here. And I want to talk about a little experiment that I have run for the last 6 months. This actually doesn't really have anything to do with probate specifically, although I guess some of these deals were probate deals. But I did a little experiment with one of the pay-per-lead providers. And they're probably not going to like what I'm going to talk about here, or maybe they will, but this is my honest review, and this is honest, real-life data and my real-life experience with these leads. So what I'm talking about is need to sell my house fast leads, or what is now called motivatedsellers.com. As of just a few weeks ago, they've rebranded. Ironically, in my humble opinion, they should just be called sellers.com because the motivation level is not not exactly there with a lot of those leads. But just like anything in this business, you got to kiss a lot of frogs, right? It's really a numbers game, right? Speak to X amount of people, make X amount of appointments, make X amount of offers, get X amount of contracts, close X amount of deals, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to break down to you today my real life numbers and a little experiment I did. And I don't know if they want me to talk about this experiment, but back over the early summer, I said, because first of all, to start out with, when Need to Sell My House Fast first came out, long time ago, this was back in I don't remember when that was. It was a while ago, right? 2020 or something like that. It was many years ago. They first came out, and I know the guy who started it. He first kind of introduced it to one of our mastermind groups. The guy that created it is not a real estate guy at all. He's an internet kind of web developer, lead generation kind of guy, and he had bought this domain and decided to create a website and see if he could get leads, and he started getting leads. And early on, he was getting leads just from SEO originally, organic search engine optimization, right? People that needed to sell my house fast, need to sell my house fast.com. And then he was reselling these leads. And the first thing he did was he reached out to some of the kind of higher level masterminds, and he said, hey guys, who wants these leads? I'll kind of give you exclusivity in your particular market. So I signed up for my area in Metro Atlanta, and I said, I want all the counties. This is way before he had started doing the bidding system that most people are aware of today. And I said, I'll take this county. And he, cool, write you down. And he started just emailing me leads from that particular county when they would come in. It was very much at that point, kind of a manual process at the very beginning, and then he created some automations. And so I did it early on, and they were great. We nailed a few deals from it, made some money. And at that point, I think he was just charging like a flat $85 a lead or something like that way back in the day. And the leads were pretty motivated. Like, it was very similar to our SEO leads that we would get on our website. Ironically, we were also getting... One of the things I found was the overlap, in that we were getting some of the same leads. We would get it on our website either through SEO or PPC, and then we would also get the same lead from him. Goes to show that sellers are, reaching out to multiple sources, multiple websites online to get offers for their property. So anyways, did that for a while. And then it turned into the bidding system, right? Where you had to start bidding for the leads, and you were in competition. It was like kind of like eBay, like an auction thing, and it still is to this day, where you kind of put in your bid for your county, and the high bidder gets the leads, right? Or until the person kind of their budget runs out. You set a budget, and if your budget runs out, then the next person in line gets leads. That's how Google pay-per-click works as well, in essence. And so basically, that's what they were doing, and then they kind of just started to suck. And I did them for a little while, and then I pulled the plug on them way back in, I think it was like 2021. And I said, you know what, we're just not doing them. We were spending a fortune on them because of the hype and the competition of everybody. And this point, it was becoming mainstream, and everybody was talking about it online and all the masterminds, and then they were doing the bidding system. And there were some counties in my area where you were paying close to $400 to be the high bidder for the leads in your specific county. And it just got to be too expensive, and I pulled the plug. It just wasn't worth it anymore. Also, the quality of the leads started to just suck. These sellers were not motivated at all. They were just people that were wanting to sell a house. And then we started to get in the phenomenon where we started getting leads where we could never get a hold of these people. And it was uncannily familiar to when I tried and experimented with Facebook ads once upon a time. Cold outreach, retargeting is a different story on Facebook, but cold outreach Facebook ads suck. Bottom line. If anybody tells you otherwise, that cold outreach leads to motivated sellers on Facebook are great, they're lying to you, and they're trying to sell you something that ain't real. Because I've tried it. We tried it we tried Facebook ads for it was between 6 months to a year. I don't remember. We tried everything. We tried ad copy. You name it, we tried it, right? Different bidding strategies, different, pictures, carousel ads, photo ads, video, you name it. We tried it all, and it just epically failed. We would get quote unquote leads, but a large percentage of these people we could never get a hold of. Or we would talk to them and they'd be like, I didn't even fill out a form. What are you talking about? So this is a little bit of foreshadowing here. All right. So let's dive into it now. So let's back up to the end of May of 2024. I said, you know what? I'm going to do a little experiment here, because I was in a mastermind and some people were like, oh, these are starting to work for us again. They had a lot of guys. I've been in high level masterminds for years. I was in Investor Fuel for a long, long time. Great group of guys, great program. Love that program. People were talking about, oh, we're starting to do that again, give it a try. And then some of the other people came on board, Lead Zolo and Property Leads and some of the other ones all kind of came into play. Doing kind of the same thing in the pay per lead space. There's a couple others out on the market now, but regardless, this summer I was like, okay, well, let me give it a try again. But I was like, let me do an experiment. What happens if I bid the lowest amount for the leads? So I picked just a few counties, right, in my local area. And I said, what if I just what if I'm the low bidder? Will I even get any leads, right? And I did. I still got leads despite not being the high bidder for my county. So we're like, okay, that's interesting. So then I expanded it and I started doing that for, larger area where I live in Atlanta, just to see if we get leads. Because remember, I do all this probate stuff, right? But I still have a team. I have Arborview Properties LLC. I'm wearing my Arborview sweatshirt right now, and I've had my team for years, and we still get leads from my websites. We still buy houses and run kind of a normal house buying business here in the metro Atlanta area, like we have done since 2016, and still do that, right? But then I do all the probate stuff too, right? So anyways, I said, all right, let's do this experiment. So I started just being the low bidder. And then I expanded the area to all of these counties and all of metro Atlanta, all of them. And I started getting leads. Now, I wasn't getting a ton of leads, but I was still getting leads. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I set my budget up to I think $2,500 a month or $3,000 a month. Just see what it would do, right? It's just an experiment. When you're doing marketing, you have to experiment with stuff. You have to try things. For instance, just now I'm advertising, doing probate marketing for people all over the country, right? We have people signing up that want to be sort of the guy in their market. We have a few different packages. If you go over to probatehouseguy.com, you can find more about that and how maybe you could be one of our partners in the specific area. But in our different packages, we run your direct mail, your SEO, your pay-per-click, all that stuff for probate-specific leads. But what most people don't realize is I've been experimenting in the online world of probate leads now for like 2 years. I've been trying this and I've spent a lot of money, like I was just looking at it the other day. What was it? Close to 70 grand in pay-per-click trying to figure out these keywords and what keywords to target and what works and what doesn't work, and how much does it cost to acquire a customer based off of where they come in the funnel, whether they're top of the funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, their motivation levels. We're trying to figure out kind of what that, because no one's done this before specifically in what I'm doing. I'm kind of blazing a new trail here. So we're trying to figure out what does this cost to acquire a customer in this world, in the space of probate specifically, and we've kind of nailed that down. That's why we're now offering the services to other people in other markets, because I felt like I needed to kind of figure it out on my own first before I start trying to do this for other people. So anyways, we're trying this and I'm experimenting, right? The whole message here is experimenting. So I'm experimenting. I'm seeing if this will work. 2024 lead volume compared to years past is definitely a lot less. The market's changed. We all know that it changed in 2022. So just trying to kind of try things and figure out what works and what doesn't. I've always been doing that in all my years of business. You can't just keep doing the same things over and over and expecting a different result. So doing this experiment, right? So I said, all right, let's do it. So then I start getting more leads. And then I said, I'm going to run this for 6 months. And after 6 months, I'm going to analyze the data and see what it looks like. Because I've talked about this before on other podcast episodes, but prior to real estate, I was a data analyst in corporate America. So I was what you would call like a hybrid fraud investigator and data analyst. I worked in the financial sector for financial institutions. I worked for some telecommunications companies and some insurance companies. And I was what some might consider like a super analyst and hybrid investigator. My job was to analyze large amounts of data and pick out patterns in the data and identify and build these giant fraud rings that were committing white-collar cybersecurity crime across the country. And I had to analyze these large amounts of data, figure out what they were doing, pick them out, identify the behavior in the data, and then find more of it, and then find connections. And then we would take these cases to the federal law enforcement. I worked a lot with Secret Service, Homeland Security, did some pretty cool big cases, U.S. District Attorney's Office, or U.S. Attorney's offices, took down cases. I mean, it was fun, right? But I hated working in a cubicle, so I got into real estate and left that whole world. Anyway, so I learned a lot about data analysis, right? And I learned about, there was a time where I was, right before I kind of went into real estate, when I was making my transition, I was working in risk management for a check cashing processing company. So basically, we were the kind of lead check cashing processor for a lot of different major check cashing vendors across the country in what we called the world of the unbanked. These were people that kind of don't have regular bank accounts, and they cash all their checks, and they put them on these, nowadays they put them on these debit cards, right? And we basically, our business was to guarantee those checks for the company, and we would process the checks behind the scenes. And if there was a loss, we would eat the loss. So my entire job there was literally to always be managing approval rates and losses, and always finding that balance between what is an acceptable amount of loss and not affecting our good customers and not approving certain checks because of, our rules were too tight. So I'm just playing that game, and I had to analyze all this data regularly, and I had to test, and I had to turn a dial and see what would happen. And then if I was wrong, I had to readjust my approach and go back to it. Or sometimes I was right, and I was always changing, measuring. And that was very much is what's helped me become successful in real estate and taking the analysis approach to this. So I analyzed all this data. That was a lot to say I analyzed all of this need to sell my house fast data. I've run the leads for 6 months now and kind of drawn my conclusions on this. So let's get into it. All right. So in this time, we received a total of 173 leads from them. Okay. And mind you, I was the low bidder. I bid the lowest amount for the first couple weeks. A few of the counties, and this was some kind of system glitch because I know I chose the lowest amount, but somehow I was charged like $150 for a lead when I thought I was bidding 75. I'm not going to speculate on what happened, but I just tell you, it seemed kind of weird to me that I know I had chosen 75 and it charged me for 150. It hasn't been that way in a few months, so maybe there was a glitch. We figured it out. I don't know. But either way, so 173 leads, and I spent a grand total, to what was charged to my credit card was $13,400 over the course of I turned it on May the 31st of 2024. I'm recording this video today on Wednesday, January the 8th of 2025. So since then, up until today, literally up until today, we haven't gotten any leads today, but we got a few yesterday. I pulled this data literally this morning, and I did this analysis this morning. I'm making this after lunch today, so I'm just spending the whole morning doing this. $13,400 total spent. We disputed, because they allow you to dispute certain leads. We disputed 69 of those leads. So that's a 40% dispute rate on average. Some months were like 39, some were a little bit higher, but on average overall, we were a 40% dispute rate. So we're disputing 40% of the leads that come into us, right? Okay. 3 of those 69 disputes were denied. And we ended up getting charged for those. So the total basically net amount that I was charged was $8,200, right? So I disputed basically $5,200 worth of stuff, and the disputes were honored, and my account was credited back for $5,200. This is total for 6 months worth, and total charge was $8,200. Okay. Of the 107 that were not disputed, 35% of those leads we have never been able to make any contact with. I have a very robust CRM, and my leads manager has been with me for years. She knows the drill. We've been doing Google pay-per-click, SEO. We understand the sense of urgency of calling these leads right away. We're calling them, texting them, phone, call, text, email, just boom, boom, boom. That first day, you're hitting them multiple times. And then if we can't get a hold of them in that first day, we're turning on automated sequences to automatically text, automatically email the people. I even set up some automations where as soon as the lead comes in, an email gets fired off immediately based off of the kind of the API data or whatever that comes across to us. Originally, it was I was doing that I'm doing it in Zapier, and it fires an email back to the seller immediately and says, "Hey, we got your lead. We'd love to talk to you about it." I mean, that's instantly as soon as the lead comes in, right? Okay, and then we text them, and then we try to call them and call them and call them. I mean, if you were to look at the notes on some of these leads, I mean, we've been trying for months to get a hold. Can't get a hold of anybody, right? So 35% of those leads we're unable to make any sort of contact with at all. Okay, so that's 38 of the 107 were no contact. So you had 67 where we did make some sort of contact out of those leads. I still don't have I've got my leads manager manually going through right now, looking at the temperature of the leads, whether it's cold, hot, warm, or hot. So I'll have some numbers on that later, but I think the rest of this data will kind of tell you the story either way. Of those 67 that we did make contact with, we set an appointment, whether that be a phone appointment or an in-person appointment or whatever. Basically, the lead, my leads manager felt like that lead was motivated and viable enough to pass it to the next step, to pass it on to kind of our acquisitions team, right? Sometimes I took a few of these to the finish line because my acquisitions guy was on vacation. And I took them to the finish line. So 11 of those we set an appointment on. So that's a 16% appointment rate, which was kind of low actually, because on average we set appointments around the 50% rate. So on average over the last couple of years, we looked at that. We're setting appointments around 50% of the leads that we get through SEO, PPC, probate. Actually, probate's higher than that. But we're setting appointments on 50% of them. So we're only 16%. So that goes to show you kind of the quality of the quote unquote leads that we're getting, a little bit lower quality. Like I said, maybe this would just be sellers.com instead of motivatedsellers.com. I know that's kind of a stab, but this is the reality. Like, I think it's important to talk about real life, to talk about real life data and real life results. And that's what I'm doing here, right? Okay, rather than just marketing hype. Okay, so 16% appointment rate. Okay, and then of those appointments, so we had 11 appointments out of 67 leads. We basically got 4 deals out of that. 3 of them have closed, and one of them is pending a nasty divorce between the husband and the wife. And basically, the judge told us that they can't sell this house yet. We were told by the judge to kind of put this on hold for a little bit because they're in this. Ironically, this couple is divorcing for the second time. They've been divorced before, got remarried, and now they're divorcing again. Crazy situation. Anyways, it's pending a divorce proceeding. So that one's kind of just on hold for now. So you had 3 deals that have closed. Of those 3 deals, we've got $60,162 in revenue off of those leads, off of those 3 that have closed. And to get there, again, $8,200 spent. Okay, so the raw ROAS number, return on ad spend, is 7.33. So you put in $1 and you get $7.33 out of that. Now, I would argue that you really have to pay attention to your real ROAS on this, your real number, because a lot of people spit off ROAS numbers, but they don't take into account the time and effort you've spent, like the total cost of this lead. For instance, people are like, oh, I do, cold calling, and they're like, they basically just bake in the cost of, their data and all that stuff, but they don't bake into all the cost where you have to talk to all of these people and all of the time and the systems and the processes and the constant recruiting of new cold callers. All of that comes at a cost, right? Sometimes it's hard to nail down that direct cost. There's an indirect cost to it, but Missy and I were discussing this. Missy's my leads manager, and we literally just had a call about this a few minutes ago. And I'm trying to get an idea from her because she spends a lot. Remember, we're disputing 40% of these leads. So she has to go in. She goes in every single day and she disputes the leads. Maybe not every day, but like every other day, multiple times per week. And she goes in and disputes them. And then some of our disputes get rejected for one reason or another. And then we have to dispute the dispute, right? Because, this BS, like we were denied because of some stupid reason, right? And we have to then redispute the dispute. And a lot of times our success rate on redisputing is actually very high. We actually do get those, they do eventually honor that dispute because we have to provide them proof and that sort of stuff, right? So anyway, she's disputing 40% of them. And then think about all of the people that she is constantly trying to get a hold of. Making phone calls, text messages. I mean, some of it's automated through our CRM, but she has to manage that lead in the CRM. She has to make sure that the texts and the emails are getting fired off and all that stuff. So she's spending a lot of time trying to make contact with all of these leads. And then the leads that she is contacting, there's an amount of time, discussing with them or whatever, right? So we figured, and this might be a little generous, maybe this number is a little bit lower, but she's maybe spending 10 hours a week total in dealing with all of these leads. It might be less, even if it's, let's say it's half of that. It for demonstration purposes, there's still a cost to that, right? So 10 hours a week, based on what I pay her, basically works out to be a total over the last 6 months of about $5,200 worth of her time. If you take her hourly rate times however much time she spent, so $5,200 over the last 6 months. Plus the $8,200 spent on the actual leads. That's $13,400. Ironically, I disputed $5,200 worth of leads. It's funny how that worked out to the same number, but either way, $13,400 total spent, including what we spent on the actual lead and then the time that it took Missy to go through and actually work these leads and all that. So that works out to a 4.48 return on spend, return on ad spend, right? So that's good, right? But there is a cost to this, and there's also an opportunity cost of, when she's spending time doing this, is she then not spending time on other things? And that's my next step, is to analyze that. Is other stuff falling through the cracks because she's spending all of her time doing this? So again, we'll recap. 173 leads, 69 of them disputed, 107 were not disputed. 38 of those 107 we could not make contact with. So that's a 35% no contact rate. That's 65% contact rate. And then of the contacts that we did make, we set 11 appointments, 16% appointment set rate. And again, that's way lower than our other leads. We were averaging around 50% of what we set appointments on of the leads that we get. And then of the 11 appointments, we've closed 3 deals. We've done 4 contracts. Actually, there was another one too that we went on the appointment. We made the offer. The guy verbally accepted our offer. We shook on it there. He said, "This is great, da-da-da-da-da. Send me the contract." We sent him the contract, and then he kind of like got cold feet and decided that he didn't want the offer anymore and changed his mind. So we maybe would have had 5, maybe. There was another one in there where my team just somehow we made a mistake and ran the ARV wrong. This was a condo, and there was like 2 phases of the complex, and we made a mistake, right? Missy on my team, she runs all these comps. She sets all the comps ahead of time and analyzes them, and she just made a mistake, right? And we had made an offer to the seller, and then when we happened to do we do a weekly team meeting every week, and we kind of do a deal review in the team meeting, and we were reviewing this deal that we had just sent out a contract on. Luckily, the seller hadn't signed the contract yet. We just literally just sent out the contract, like I think it was either that morning or the night before or something. He hadn't even signed it yet, but the seller was like, "Yeah, that sounds good to me. Let's do it." Whatever. And then we were running the numbers, and I'm like, "Guys, we screwed the pooch here. Like, we messed up. Like, we can't pay. We're $30,000 over on our offer. Like, that's our profit margin on this deal. It's kind of a lower price condo. Like a ARV on this condo was like $200K. So it was like a $30,000 profit on a $200K condo. So I was like, that's all of our profit margin. Like, we can't do this deal. So you're going to have to call the seller and tell him no. And of course the seller was pissed. And then we look like all the other Yahoos out there who cancel contracts. So we really don't do that. Like, I try not to do that. Like, it happens from time to time, but I can tell you, I can count on one hand the number of contracts I've terminated. It's just not, I don't do that a lot, right? And we felt really bad about it. But anyway, so there was that one. But actual deals closed, 3 deals closed, attributing $60,162 in revenue, $8,200 spent on the leads. We factored in $5,200 over the course of 6 months. That's total over 6 months. In the time that Missy spent based on her hourly pay, that equals $13,400. So you divide the 6162 by the 13,400, and you get a 4.48 ROAS, which is a good ROAS, but not like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like but before is good, right? It's, you put in $1, you get $4.48 out the back. That is good, right? But some people are like, oh, it's amazing. And it's like, well, it's not really amazing. It's good, right? So anyways, I wanted to share those numbers. That's real life. And again, this was leads from needtosellmyhousefast.com, which is now Motivated Sellers. They may or may not like me making this video, but this is real data. This is real life. These are real life results. This is 6 months worth of data. And mind you guys, if I had done it the other way, where I was the high bidder and bidding that amount per lead, these ROAS numbers would be terrible, absolutely terrible. And when I was doing it before, that's why I stopped doing it, because when the prices went so high, the prices went up on the leads, but the quality of the leads went down. And that's why I stopped doing it, because there was no return on ad spend. It wasn't worth it, right? So also, one thing I want to talk about here is we speak to these sellers and we ask them how they found us, right? And you might be surprised by the results. again, the no contact rate is very uncannily similar to when we ran Facebook ads and we just couldn't make contact with these people. And of the ones that we did contact, I don't have the exact breakdown of numbers. This is just anecdotally when we ask people, and I'll probably try to go get in the numbers. But the mixture of responses we've gotten is I saw you on Facebook, I saw you on YouTube, and one person said they saw us on TV, which I thought was interesting. I didn't know that they were running TV ads. Maybe they are in certain markets, but I saw you on TV. And then another person said, I got a call from somebody. So I can't verify. I don't know where they're getting their leads from. But I thought that was interesting. That's just anecdotally. Right. So here's my kind of real life review on this. Running it. This is 6 months worth of data. Run 6 months, because when you're running data, you have to run it for a certain period of time before you can analyze it. Because you can't, run it for like 2 or 3 weeks and then quit and give up and say this is crap. You have to run it for a certain amount of time. You got to spend money to make money. And this is what I did. Right. So I made money. I made my money back. I got a return on my ad spend. And I've analyzed all the data, and this is real data. So I hope that's helpful to somebody. And I'm glad to be back. I'm going to start cranking out more of these episodes. Now it's 2025. Got a lot of cool stuff coming on. If you're interested in being one of our partners through Probate Across the Country, where we run your probate marketing for you in your specific market, and you are one of our partners that gets our leads that we generate on our probateresource.com website, love to have that discussion with you. If you go over to probatehouseguy.com. Also, I launched I did this kind of right before the holidays, and I didn't really talk about it a lot. But I went in and created a model. Remember, did all this analysis. I created this model where I break down all of my probate direct mail marketing data from 2018 to current. I analyzed all of it, and I built a model that helped me identify over $100,000 in savings going forward. So if I implement these changes, I was able to use this model to identify certain pockets in my probate direct mail marketing that I was marketing to on my lists that I had, there was no return or a negative return. So just like in the book, The Pumpkin Plan, where Mike Michalowicz talks about how a prize pumpkin farmer takes the vine and he prunes the vine. He prunes the dead growth or the slow growing growth off of the vine so that the vine puts more energy into the prize pumpkin that it's growing. It's kind of the same concept, right? So I took this model and I analyzed all of my stuff, and I analyzed many years worth of data. So this is like a really good, accurate picture of years worth of probate direct mail marketing data. And I was able to identify certain pockets within my list that I didn't need to market to anymore. I was wasting money marketing to these certain people, these certain segments of the list. And I used this model to identify that. And literally over $100,000 worth of savings that I identified that will actually increase my marketing return by over 50%, is what the model kind of predicts, right? Okay. And then just to give you an example, last month when I haven't ordered my round of direct mail for this month yet. I usually do it the first week of January. For last month when I ordered it in December, for my marketing in Atlanta, I saved $5,000 in spend in direct mail cost. $5,000 just in 1 month. $5,000 by trimming this list down to the meat and potatoes that really works. Okay. So what I did, someone told me this, and I did this. I actually recorded an entire video on how I built this model. And I go into depth how to build this model, how to set up your sheets, your spreadsheets, how to set up all the formulas and the pivot tables and all the stuff. I break that all down step by step. But even if you're not an Excel nerd like I am and well-versed in Excel, I still go in and identify and I show you and I pick apart and show you all of the pockets that I used and that I identified where I can save money and not market to those segments of my list anymore because they were not fruitful, right? So even if you don't build the model at all, the value you're going to get out of that just by learning those nuggets that I go through, and I go through all of them and I break down all of them and I show you the real life data, what the ROAS was on those, how much I spent, how many leads I got, all that stuff. It's all in this. So I basically built a little, like a course on this. It's kind of a mini course. I think it's only like 4 modules or whatever. But it's like over an hour's worth of video of screen capture where I go in and I show you how to build all this, and I show you all these segments that you can use to improve your probate direct mail marketing. So if you're a real estate investor and you're marketing to probate leads via direct mail, it might be worth buying that course. So you can go to probatehouseguy.com/model is the page for that, and you can get a copy of that course. And the cost to buy that is going to be way less than what you're going to save in your marketing. So I hope it's helpful to you guys. Thanks for joining back on the podcast. Again, I'm Brad, the Probate House Guy. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.